Crafton says the Sims competitor Inzoi still launches in early access this year. Sim Simulator. So I seen this article and I wasn't really gonna do a video on it at first until I actually opened it up and started reading up on it. Now the article itself wasn't really what grabbed my interest. What grabbed my interest was actually the models that they did with all of these different characters. It looks really interesting. So I figured it was one of those things we can go ahead and look at the article. It's not too long. We can just go ahead and check it out a little bit, and then we'll check out the photos that really had grabbed my interest with this. So go ahead and see here. Live simulation fans will be pleased to hear that Inzoi, the Sims competitor for PUBG's company Krafton, is still set to launch in early access in 2023 despite the year winding down. Game director Hyun Jung Kim told, if I pronounce that wrong, I apologize, PC Gamer that Inzoi is still on track for an early access release on PC this year despite no official announcement coming from Krafton. Inzoi is a life simulation game where players become gods within the game, allowing them to change everything as they wish and experience endless new stories in various forms of life. This was enough to capture the attention of disgruntled The Sims fans, with many claiming they still switch to Inzoi for good once it's fully released. And so I mean that'll be pretty good for anyone that, like I said, that are the life simulation kind of type of players. Because if I'm not mistaken, the last Sims game I believe came out in 2014. Now I could be wrong. I think it might be in this article where I had read that information. But if that's the case, that's nearly 10 years that we've gotten a game, which is wild when you think about it. But yeah, so I mean, if there is a niche for it, and there are people that want to play that game, obviously this is going to be something that they're going to go for. So figures. So continue on. Crafton has plans to support Inzoi for the next 20 years too, according to Kim, as he has many improvements in mind. I think that a lot of improvements that can be made. For instance, we need more cities, he said. We want to create as many cities as possible to help experience different cultures and different countries. And I want people to have urges to create things to be able to create everything they want. I want maybe other games to be inside our game and actually function, and I want to put it as many features as possible as creators could use. A console release is planned soon. So that's actually pretty interesting that they're trying to go that direction. One, because I think it would be cool for them to have different cities with different cultures, because even though, obviously it's a video game and everything like that, if you're able to actually go through real life cities that have the cultures of those cities, I think that'll be a really neat way for people to actually experience different cultures from the comfort of their own home. So, for anyone that, likes to travel, they can go ahead and experience it and then be able to actually see the cultures themselves firsthand in that way, as well as the fact that people that really don't have any interest in traveling or planning on and prefer to just stay home, they can at least still kind of get a little bit of that understanding of the way that different cultures work and the way that they move in that direction. And then another thing I thought was pretty cool is that they mentioned that they wanted to have other games inside of their game. So it's kind of like how, for anyone that hasn't seen some of like the virtual reality games, there was a, I don't know if it was a game specifically or if it was just like a virtual reality experience where they had it where you can sit down into an old school room that looked like it was like from the 90s and then play some, I think it was 64 games. It was either 64 Nintendo 64 games or it was the PlayStation 1 games where they had the console there, they could turn it on, and the TV that was inside of the room actually started playing games. I think it was like Crash Bandicoot that they had available for you to play. So the fact that they're planning on doing that for this game would be pretty interesting. So I thought that was pretty cool. And we'll continue on. Crafton announced Inzoi in November 2023, and the release of character creation in August indicates development is progressing. The Sims fans were enticed by the teaser and used to create all sorts of real and functional people such as Taylor Swift and Harry Potter, which is wild. We'll see that right now in a second, and it's crazy the way that they're able to do that. In our preview of Inzoi, IGN said the game's world is extremely beautiful but somewhat empty in motion, permeated by lack of grounding lore. So it is one of those things, from the sounds of it, they still have quite a bit of development to go in it. But if there is, from what the statements they had made, anything to go by, then that should be pretty cool from what it sounds like. I haven't, like I said, played any sim games in a long time, but this is something, if they did have it kind of where they do have different cultures and different cities and that type of stuff, and they have different games that you can actually play in it, I think this would be something to, at least worth checking out to see what it's like. And if not even playing myself, at least going like on YouTube or something and be able to see some gameplay that someone else is able to do. So this is what really grabbed my interest when it came down to this whole article and deciding to do a video on it. So the characters that they have that they were able to create in this game is wild. So I never played Detroit Become Human, but I am familiar with the design of this character, so I thought that was pretty cool. Ada Wong, I love Ada. She's one of my favorite characters, especially because I'm such a big Resident Evil franchise fan. It doesn't necessarily look like her, but you still kind of get the feel of the character herself, and the fact that they're able to design her was pretty cool. And then we got Wario, which was pretty funny when you think about it. And then Monica Bellucci as Morticia Adams. So I never watched the newer Adams Family movie. I watched the movies back in the day, but as far as the TV show with Jenna Ortega, I never really watched it myself. But you know, I do know Monica Bellucci, and the fact that she looks just like, well, not just like her, but it looks pretty similar to her is pretty cool. And then we got Harry Potter. This looks a lot like Harry Potter, so I thought that was wild seeing that one. And then we got Walter White, which I thought was pretty cool. And you mean obviously they're not like one for one versions of the characters, but they're still pretty spot on. It's pretty wild how close they're able to get it. And then I don't know who this character is. If anyone wants to fill me in on this one, we got Abraham Lincoln, which is wild. It's pretty interesting. We got Britney Spears. Kind of looks a little bit off, but at the same time, you can kind of guess it might be her. And Taylor Swift, this one actually kind of tripped me out a little bit because that really does look like Taylor Swift. It looks like a Barbie version of her almost. So I thought that was pretty crazy. Billie Eilish, this looks wildly like her. I thought this was insane. And then Beyonce, pretty good depiction of her. Giga Chad, I thought that one was pretty funny. And then yeah, back to Detroit Become Human. So the fact that they're able to do these kind of designs for these characters just on the game itself, I think that's pretty crazy because it is one of those things you kind of think like when characters kind of look like actual people, they do have to do like the whole face model and everything like that and then designing it and all that. But if we're getting to the point where people are able to create these characters just from like this one game alone, this is pretty interesting for what the gaming industry is going to hold in the future. So it is one of those things people always talk, people always kind of give that thing like, oh, you look at games in the 90s and they're all pixelated and everything. It's crazy to think that we've come so far from like 20, 30 years. And it's one of those things you got to really think if this is what it looks like now, imagine what it's going to look like in another 20, 30 years. So I thought that was pretty crazy. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is this a game you guys will be picking up if you get the opportunity to whenever it does come out? And if so, is there any characters out there or anyone that you can think of that you'll be wanting to design yourself? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, I really appreciate it. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate that. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.